The waiting room felt like a library where no one wanted to check out a book. The smell of antiseptic floated in the air, faintly mixing with the perfume of the woman sitting 2 chairs down. Emily kept her eyes glued to the magazine in her lap, though she couldn't remember a single word she'd read. Her cheeks burned with the quiet dread of someone about to talk about things she'd never even whispered out loud. She wasn't here for a cold or a sprained ankle. She was here for women's health. Even thinking the phrase made her stomach knot. She was 24, had lived in the same small town all her life, and still blushed if the pharmacy clerk asked if she needed a paper bag for the tampons. Today was different. Her cycles had been irregular for months, and after waking up last week with sharp pains low in her abdomen, she finally made an appointment. Her mom offered to come with her, but Emily shook her head. This was something she needed to do on her own. She wanted to feel like an adult, not a child clinging to her mother's arm. But sitting here now, with the second hand of the clock scraping along each moment, she wished she'd taken the offer. Miss Emily Harper. The nurse's voice was warm but brisk. Emily stood, tucking her hair behind her ears, clutching her purse like a lifeline. The nurse led her down a hallway lined with closed doors. The sound of distant typing came from somewhere down the corridor. Emily stepped into the exam room and sat on the paper-covered table, her legs swinging nervously. She tried to take deep breaths. "Doctor will be with you in a minute," the nurse said, offering a quick smile before shutting the door. Emily exhaled, trying to rehearse what she'd say. "I've been having pain. My cycles are off." "No, I'm not, pregnant." She fidgeted with the hem of her sweater, barely noticing the door open again. "Good afternoon, Miss Harper," a deep, calm voice said. Emily looked up, and froze. Her new doctor couldn't have been older than 30. Tall, broad-shouldered, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. His white coat hung perfectly, the kind you only saw in TV dramas. He had the sort of presence that made you stand a little straighter without realizing it. But there was something else. His watch, an elegant silver piece, looked like it belonged in a glass case at a high-end store. His shoes, perfectly polished. Everything about him whispered not just professionalism, but wealth. Dr. Adrian West. That was the name on his badge. Emily swallowed hard. Oh no, he's my age, almost. And ridiculously good-looking. And clearly rich. I cannot talk about my body to him. He seemed to notice her nerves. "First time here." She nodded quickly. "All right, let's make this simple. You tell me what's been bothering you, and I'll listen. No judgment, no rushing, no awkwardness. Deal?" His tone was so steady it felt like an anchor lowering into her chest. Emily hesitated, then began haltingly. "My cycles, they've been off. And there's pain. Bad pain sometimes." He asked gentle, careful questions, never interrupting, never making her feel foolish. His notes were quick, but his focus stayed entirely on her. She felt the tight knot in her stomach begin to loosen. Halfway through, she realized something odd. There was no arrogance in him. No air of superiority, despite the expensive watch and perfect hair. He laughed softly when she apologized for probably overreacting, saying, "Health isn't an overreaction. That's like saying a seatbelt is unnecessary because you probably won't crash." It was the first time she'd smiled that day. What Emily didn't know, yet, was that Dr. West had walked away from a family empire to work in this small-town clinic. He didn't need the paycheck. He needed something else, and in that moment, as he listened to her without judgment, she began to understand what kindness looked like when it had nothing to prove. The next time Emily saw Dr. Adrian West, the air between them felt different, not romantic, not yet, but warmer. She'd spent the past 2 weeks following his advice, tracking her symptoms, changing her diet slightly, and actually resting on the days the pain came. For someone who usually pushed through everything, resting felt strange, but she noticed the difference. She had almost canceled today's follow-up. The pain had eased. The awkwardness of that first appointment still lingered in her memory, and she thought maybe she'd just send an email update instead. But something about the way he had looked her in the eyes, treating her like a whole person rather than a list of symptoms, made her keep the appointment. When she walked into the exam room, Adrian was already there, reviewing her notes. "Miss Harper." "Emily. Good to see you again," he said, the corner of his mouth lifting in a genuine smile. This time, Emily didn't freeze. Hi, you can just call me Emily. Everyone does. He nodded. Then you can call me Adrian. The conversation flowed more easily now. They talked about her progress, but somehow drifted into lighter topics. The cafe in town with the best pie, how the spring flowers were late this year, the way the local high school team had shocked everyone by winning regionals. It was the kind of small talk that makes people feel less like patient and doctor, and more like two human beings sharing a sliver of life. It was when she mentioned how expensive her medication was that something shifted. She wasn't complaining, just stating a fact, but she saw his jaw tighten slightly. Emily, do you have insurance? He asked gently. She shook her head, embarrassed. I'm between jobs. I'm fine, though. I'll figure it out. He leaned back, studying her for a moment. Would you let me take care of it? She blinked. Take care of? No, I can't let you. I have a fund, he interrupted softly. For patients who need it. It's anonymous, no strings. You'd be helping me. Actually, I hate seeing it sit unused. Emily didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why would you do that? Because someone once did it for me, he said, his voice low but steady. When I was in medical school, I was the one who couldn't afford treatment. A doctor covered my bills. Told me the only repayment I owed was to do the same for someone else someday. So, here we are. The room went quiet except for the hum of the ceiling vent. Emily felt her throat tighten, not with awkwardness this time, but with gratitude so fierce it was almost painful. She realized then that wealth, when paired with humility, wasn't intimidating. It was powerful. Later, as she walked out of the clinic holding the new prescription slip, paid for, no debt hanging over her, she thought about how small moments can change the course of someone's life. And somewhere deep down, she promised herself that if she were ever in a position to help someone the way Adrian had helped her, she would. Because kindness wasn't just contagious, it was a chain, stretching backward through time and forward into the future.